Hi, my name is Robert Jewett. I've been a teacher in this district for 21 years. I'm currently a tech training specialist down at the district office, which means I teach teachers how to use technology, which through this last year has been a vital component to your education. It's been a trying year. I'm sorry I'm not on campus with you as I have been in the past. But I'll put together this presentation, so hopefully it's helpful for you. I'm going to try to make it relevant to everything you're doing, so you're not looking like this guy on this slide and thinking, really, another internet safety thing? Like, do I have to pay attention? Do I have to listen? I'm going to make you want to pay attention. I have my own children, teenagers, young adults, and I've put them through this as well. They learned from it. They've applied it to their life, so I'm hoping that you will too, and that as we use the internet together, we're using it in a manner that is good for us, good for others, and keeping us out of trouble. So pay attention as we get through this, okay? Let's start off with some exciting news. This year, the district is rolling out a one-to-one laptop pilot program. What that means is, as you already know, you have a laptop that you get to take home with you, use at home, bring back to school. But it is a pilot, which means they're testing this out to see how well we do with these devices so that we can do it in future years as well. So you're going to want to take care of that laptop. Make sure you put it in your backpack. Make sure you're not throwing your backpack around, mistreating it, and that laptop getting broken. Also, be careful when you have the laptop open. Don't put your pencil or paper clips or anything like that on top of the keyboard, because when you close that screen, it's going to break that glass. So also liquids, keep them away from that laptop. Make sure at night you shut it down completely. Don't just shut the screen, but shut the device down. That way updates are run regularly. Also make sure it's charged up at night. Just get in a routine of charging it up and bringing that to school, and hopefully this runs well and we can continue doing it in future years. Now, before we move on into our presentation, I just wanted you to be mindful that there is a responsible use policy that as a student in Chino Valley Unified School District, you are to abide by, which means that that is a district device that you are taking home, and all the different apps that we use, whether it's email or Google or Microsoft, those are all district apps. And so those things can be monitored by the district. So you want to make sure you're using them for educational purposes only. Whether you're at home or you're at school, that device is to be used for educational purposes only. I'd encourage you to go online here to tinyurl.com/CVUSD RUP, all lowercase, and you can read that responsible use policy there. Not like the internet hasn't been already important to us, but over this last year through this pandemic, obviously everything that we have done has been over the internet, whether it's streaming entertainment, obviously our education has been online, but social media, keeping in contact with our friends and family. So internet has been a part of every one of our lives, especially over this last year. So as we look into this topic of just keeping ourselves safe online, making sure we're being wise, I want to make it real relevant to you. So let's talk about the first thing. And here it comes. Now, if I was live with you in person, I would ask you, what is this? And surely one of you would say, it's a ghost. And yes, it's a ghost, but most of us, if not all of us, know that this is the very popular social media app, Snapchat. Many of you have accounts on Snapchat. Some of you do not. If you do not feel like you need to have one. I am simply using Snapchat as an example. Everything I'm going to show you about Snapchat is very similar in every other social media platform. So don't think it's just Snapchat and I'm picking on Snapchat. I'm just using them because they are popular right now. But understand what I'm about to show you is on every other platform as well. Download Snapchat onto your phone, onto your device, and you go to the sign in and you have to sign up for an account. You'll get to this page and you'll have to write in your name, your first and last name, but then it says by tapping sign up and accept, you agree to terms of service and the privacy policy. Well, what in the world is the terms of service? Most of us are like, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm not going to read all that. But I must ask you then, why would Snapchat spend tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to pay a law firm to write all of these terms? What are they trying to do? Why are they spending that money? Do you think it's to protect me or to protect you? Obviously, it's to protect them. And if it's to protect them, what are they protecting themselves from? You got to slow down and ask these questions, because we use Snapchat or another type of social media to post all kinds of content. So why are they concerned? Why the terms of service? Why the privacy policy? Why all the protection? And so this is going to be interesting for many of us to find out, what are they protecting themselves from? So as we ask ourselves that question, we should probably look to their terms of service. We're going to find some of this language in there. So you'll see here that you grant Snapchat, and I'm just going to read some of what I've put in red here. I've just highlighted in the red lettering. But you grant Snapchat license to host, to store, to use, to display, to reproduce, to modify, to adapt, edit, publish, distribute, and publicly display all of your content. I want you to think about that for a moment. If you look at these terms of service, they can publish us around the world. Perpetual means forever. So when you click that agree button, you are saying they can publish the content that you put up on their platform, that they could do it forever. Not meaning whether or not you have deleted that content or not whether or not you want that to be used around the world or not. You have agreed to it. It is also royalty free, which means if they use any of your pictures, your videos, your sentences, and make money off it, they're never going to give you a penny for it, because you have agreed that giving them permission, and it's royalty free. They can also sublicense it, which means they can now give that content to another group or another party or another company and make money off of them by giving them your content. They can transfer it. So let's say Snapchat is no longer a viable platform. It's no longer popular. They can take all the content that you have put on the platform and transfer it to another platform. They can make derivatives of your work. They can display it, broadcast it, exhibit it. This is all of your content that now becomes their content to use however they want for however long they want, because you tapped on the agree button. Now, just so you know, there's no other way to use Snapchat or any other social media platform unless you agree to these terms. It won't allow you to access the app until you click agree. And for most of us, we don't read all of these terms. We just click the agree button. Well, now you know that whatever you put on there, you have given it to them forever. They have access to it, and they can use it however they want. In case you think, oh, Mr. Jewett, you've made this up. You're trying to scare us. By the way, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to inform you. I'm trying to educate you. Obviously, we like using a lot of these platforms. We like sharing information. I just want you to be wise. I want you to be knowledgeable, that the things that you do put up there, that they leave what's called a digital footprint. These things don't disappear, that we're giving access to companies to keep this content forever. That even though we might decide we want to delete it or remove it, we've given it to them. That content is now stored on their servers, which is a big computer, that they get to keep and use that content however they want. And I'm not making this information up. It's straight right here from their website. If you look it up, you'll find all this language there. And again, I'm only using Snapchat as an example. It is every other platform. So every day there are new platforms coming out. Right now there's very popular platforms like Snapchat and TikTok and Twitter, and all of them are the same way. You agree to give them your content. And so we just need to be wise as we're putting up content and think before we post, is this something that if this company later released, that it would come back and be embarrassing to me, that it can get me in trouble? You know, even these platforms like Snapchat have features like for your eyes only and like these private areas. But understand, even in those, you're still giving them permission to keep your content, to know your content. So it's kind of deceiving. You would think that this is only content in these areas that is just for you, but in these terms of service, you've actually given that platform full rights to that content as well. So when we talk about internet safety, this is typically one of the first things that we get to is just some of the risky behavior. And some of you will think, oh, Mr. Joda, I know these things already. I know that sending mean or rude messages could get me in trouble, or obviously sharing inappropriate pictures with others, or talking about adult subjects, or visiting adult sites can get me in trouble. Speaking of that, just so that you know, those terms of service that you would sign in with an app, there is also an agreement that you have when you use district computers, devices, whether it's a Chromebook that you've checked out, whether you're in a computer lab at school or you're on the internet, that everything you do when you sign into a computer is stored on the district server. So every time, the teacher turns around, is not looking, and you're like Googling something that maybe the teacher wouldn't approve of, just so you know, that's all documented and logged under your account. So there is a digital footprint, as I spoke of before, of everything that you do online is accounted for. And so again, not to scare you, but to educate you. And I want to ask you this. Imagine it's after school, the school day is over, you have gone home, you're in the privacy of your own bedroom, and you get on social media and you start saying inappropriate things about another classmate. You begin saying things that are pretty much bullying them online. Do you think you can get in trouble at school for doing that, even though it was done in your own time? For some of us, we don't know the answer to this. We think that I'm out of school and I can do what I want and talk about who I want. But the reality is since that student also goes to the school, you will also get in trouble at school for the conduct that you did at home. So again, this is just information that you're aware of this. So as we're using these tools, we're avoiding these risky behaviors that we're not going to end up getting in trouble for doing something that maybe we were just trying to be silly or foolish, or maybe just venting ourselves and getting out some emotion. But instead that we realize that these things can have lasting effect. While posting things online, there are obvious things that you want to avoid from posting. There's inappropriate content that, though you might think, you know what, I just have this circle of friends that are with me online. I've only allowed certain people to be my friends or my followers that can see this content. Realize that people take screenshots, people share images of other people's content, and when someone takes a screenshot of your content, you can't get that back. You can't take it back. Even if you delete your content, they still have it. And you have no control over who they then share that information with. It could be family members of yours. It could be teachers of yours. It could be people you never wanted to see that content. But because you made the choice to put that content online, now it's accessible to almost anybody. Posting things online can obviously have ramifications that you weren't expecting them to have. There are things you put online that you weren't considering what could happen if this information got out. And unfortunately, one of the things that can happen is just your reputation. That's something that you work hard to establish. It's something that you work hard to maintain. It's what others think of you. And I know many of us think, I don't care what people think about us, but that's so not true. We want to be well thought of by others. And so we work hard at building our reputation. And it could just be one post, one social media post that changes all of that people judge in a certain way. So we need to be careful on what we're putting online. Obviously, there are things that we could talk about online, like inappropriate content, that can get us in trouble with school, but also with law enforcement. When we begin to bully people and threaten them online, that's not just a school issue, but it's also the law gets involved, and the police get involved with that. When we start sharing content that is inappropriate, inappropriate pictures online, that's also another legal issue. That if you share a picture, inappropriate picture of somebody who is under 18 years old, that is called child pornography. And that if you have that on your phone, that if you're caught with it, that's a felony, that it's possession of child pornography. That if you then shared that with somebody else, it's not only possession, but it's also transferring it. It's transmitting child pornography. That's two different felonies. So these things are serious issues. But the other thing is, you can also jeopardize future opportunities by what you put online. Let me give you an example, something that's happened a lot recently. You have students who are working really hard through high school, making sure their grades are good so they can get into the university they want to get into, and working hard. I've heard of some instances of Stanford, Harvard, some of these very difficult universities to get into, that have sent a student a letter of acceptance. The student is excited, they've worked hard to get into that, only to days later receive another letter saying from the university they have rescinded that letter of acceptance because of what they found out online about that student, from social media posts that student has put online, that they say, we no longer think that you would be fitting to represent our university. Again, this is a sad thing. It could be just one tweet, one message online that has ruined a future opportunity. Scholarships, I don't know if you're aware, but to get a scholarship taken away, I have 2 children in college right now. The cost of tuition and housing, $40,000 to $50,000 a year, and you can get scholarships for these expenses, but because of some of the things that we're putting online, those get taken away. This is why we have to be so careful on what we're posting to know that it could affect us in the future. When you go to post things online, typically you're not asking yourself questions before you do it. Although asking yourself some of these questions would be so helpful to prevent any future trouble coming from what you've posted online, or any future hurt of how you've offended somebody or hurt them. Typically as we go and we post things online, we just go with what our emotion is. If we're frustrated or upset, then we post something out of that frustration, or out of being irritable about something. Or if we're happy or overjoyed about something, maybe we post something out of that joy and out of that excitement. But regardless of what emotion we're posting out of, we still have to consider how this content could affect us in the future and how it's going to affect others now. I always say this, if I'm going to post something and I have to look over my shoulder to see if anybody's watching me, that should be a red flag that I should not post what I'm about to publish. There's times I need to stop and consider, what if this got out? What if this went to people that I didn't want it to go to? Would I be okay with them seeing this? And if the answer is no to that, I need to stop and reconsider what I'm about to publish. It might be words, it could be pictures, it could be video, but I need to ask myself these crucial questions before I post this content. Have you considered how amazing it is that you can open up your social media platform, write down something, and then hit send or post or share, whatever it is on that application, and within seconds, that information has traveled the entire globe? I mean, it's fascinating to think about. But when we slow down and contemplate about that truth, it is also a frightening thing that in a matter of moments, my thoughts, my images, my videos can be seen by people around the entire world in just moments. All I had to do is tap share, post, send, and everybody got to see that. And there are times that we share too much information and it goes all over, and we think maybe it's only going to go to a select few people. But as I've shared before, everything we do online leaves a digital footprint. We leave evidence of what we've done, and individuals can take screenshots, and companies that we've given permission to keep this information. Every platform we use, we've given permission. So even when we decide, you know what, I want to delete that post, I want to delete that message or that image, we've still given it to the company to keep. There are still others who have seen it, who have screenshot it, and we can't get that back, as I mentioned before. So what we do online, we have to see it as something that is permanent. So as we make decisions of what we're going to post, we need to realize they're not things that we could just take back. It's not like on a computer where you just Control Z and undo, or shake it and it undoes it. But these are things that are permanent and affect us and affect others. So we must be wise when we're posting. So there are some things that we can do to help protect us online, that we would be more wise online. That's to do with privacy rules. The first thing you definitely want to do is have a different password for every account, and I realize that is a tall ask, and for some of us, there's no way I can do that. I'm going to talk more about that on the next slide. But also, you want to know what your privacy settings are. No matter what social media app, go into the settings and see what you have set up. I strongly encourage you to only have friends, only have those who you know who they are, that are following you and seeing your posts. I understand there's the struggle and the battle to want to show others how many followers or friends that we have online, that it makes us feel popular and well liked by others. But the reality is, we don't know all those people, and we all know that about each other, that if we have hundreds or thousands of followers, that we don't even know who they are. I mean, you could even go in the Google Play Store or the App Store, and you could buy through an app, you could buy followers. So this is how prevalent this is, and this is how ridiculous this is. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. The point of it is that you want to be able to communicate with those people who are your friends. So think about the people you hang out in real life, that circle, that connection of friends. Those are the people that you want to share with online. And that's going to keep you safe online too, so you know who has access to this information. Also, when we talk about passwords, you don't want to share your passwords with others, even if they're your bestie. Realize this, think about right now, did you have an old bestie who's no longer your bestie? Something happens to relationships over time. Some of the times they fail, and our old bestie is no longer our friend. Sometimes they can now be our enemy. So you don't want to give them passwords. They have access to your email and your social media platforms and other things like that. Keep your passwords private to you and you alone. So I mentioned on the last slide how one of the most important things that you need to do is to have a different password for every app and every website that you log into. And for most of us, we're like, that's impossible. I mean, how could I remember that many passwords? So let me tell you what I do. What I do is I take my favorite password. So this is an example. This is not really my favorite password, so don't try to use it to hack into anything. But I do love San Diego. So let's imagine this is my favorite password. It's San Diego #1 because San Diego is really great. And let's say I put a couple symbols in there for security reasons, and it's a pretty good password. Well, if I only used that password in every platform that I log into, if a platform gets hacked, they're going to steal my username or my email and my password, and they're going to use a software to try to apply that to every other application and website across the internet. So I need to make sure that I have a different password for every site so not everything gets hacked into at the same time or ever. So what I do is I take my favorite password, this San Diego #1, and I just add 2 letters to the end of it that differentiate it for each site or application that I'm logging into. So for example, for Amazon, I'm still going to take my San Diego #1, but I'm taking the first letter and the last letter of the site. In this case, it's Amazon, so AN, and I'm adding it at the end. That password will only work in Amazon. It won't work anywhere else. So if that site gets hacked and hackers are trying to use that password somewhere else, it's not going to work anywhere else. Or for Instagram. Instagram starts with an I, ends with an M. So I'm going to use my favorite password, the San Diego #1, but I'm going to put that IM on the end. Now again, you could see looking at the screen what I'm doing. I'm just adding the first and last letter of the site, and you might think, Mr. Jewett, that's not that smart. Can't people figure that out? Well, remember, when sites get hacked, it's a computer program that's stealing the exact password and putting that password into all other sites. So this is really important for you to do, to change your password. Just add those ending letters there. Tell your parents to do the same thing because they have banking accounts that hackers can get into with that same password they're using. So share this information with others so everybody will change their passwords for every site. You would think this would go without saying that there are certain things that you should never post online. However, sometimes we think it's just not that big of a deal. And people will post their home address, they'll put their passwords, they'll put their phone number, they'll put their email address. And there are literally people looking for this type of information to do improper things with this information. So, for example, there was an FBI sting recently where an FBI agent posed as a 15-year-old girl online. Though she was a young adult, she posed as a 15-year-old. She said online, she posted to her public account that she was on vacation at a certain hotel with her family. Later, she came back and posted again that her family had gone out for the night and that she was in a certain room. She gave the room number and said time to party. Within 15 minutes, 2 men had broken open the door, came in, grabbed her, threw her on the bed, but then the FBI was there, and it was a sting to catch these people who were there looking to take advantage of people. Now again, she had a public account. She had people following her that she didn't know they were up to no good. So important that we know that when we are posting things, there are people looking for information about us. So never post your location, never post private information. All right, continue hanging in there with me. We only got a couple more topics to cover, but I want to talk about your photo fate. I mean, the reality is many of us have cell phones now. Those cell phones are primarily used more than making phone calls. They're used for social media, for texting, but also they have a camera on them. So we're taking a lot of pictures and a lot of videos. And now there's a pressure to take pictures or videos that are inappropriate, ones that we wouldn't want our parents to see, wouldn't want our teachers to see, and to share them with other people. And typically this happens between two people that like each other, and they're like, hey, since you like me, show me this or show me that, and send me this or send me that. And they think, well, I can trust that person. And so they send them a picture. Now, I've already talked about the legal ramifications of this earlier, that any of these inappropriate pictures of anybody under 18 years old, it's called child pornography. And there's both the possession of it, and then when you would transfer it or give it to somebody else, they're felonies for doing that. But here's the case. It happens because people trust each other. They think nothing's ever going to happen between us, and I really want that person to like me, so I give them this picture. But just like I talked about, having a bestie, that you no longer have that bestie, you might have that special somebody who no longer is your special somebody, and you can't get that picture back. And so for many years as a school teacher, I spent time as a PE teacher. So I was in a boys' locker room where I got to overhear a lot of conversations. And as these boys got into relationships with some girls, they would say all kinds of nice things and how great she was and tell all kinds of wonderful stories to their friends. But then once they broke up, that all changed. And the things they talked about and the things that they said were no longer things that were good anymore about that girl. Well, imagine if they had some images or videos and what they can do. So be so wise. Don't ever take videos or pictures that you wouldn't want the world to see. Now remember, just like the terms of service that we looked at for Instagram earlier, you don't know what apps on your phone right now in the terms of service say that they can upload your photo library and keep that content on their servers and use however they want. So be careful that you have a device that's connected to the internet, that as you take pictures and photos, that you realize those can actually get out. So not sharing them with others, but I would advise that you not use your phone for any type of inappropriate pictures. I want to talk about the topic of stranger danger. Obviously something that you're aware that it happens out there, but not something you typically are very concerned it's going to happen to you. But I want to let you know that there are people around the world that are looking to take advantage of young people. And they'll either befriend you on a social media platform, they'll find you in a chat room somewhere, and typically they will forge a really good friendship with you. They will be patient. They will take 6 months to a year to establish this relationship. They'll present themselves as somebody different, typically somebody who's younger, somebody who's attractive. They'll post images, and it's not who's really behind the computer. And they will flatter you. They'll make you feel good about yourself. They'll tell you can trust them, that they're a friend like no other. But some red flags are they will, in time, tell you you can't trust other people like your friends or your parents. They'll start to transition the conversation to more adult topics and get very suggestive in those topics with you. They'll ask you perhaps for pictures or for videos, and they could possibly ask you to meet them in person. This is called grooming. It is a tactic that people use online that want to do inappropriate things to you. They will be very patient, and they'll tell you not to tell anybody else about this relationship, to keep it just between the two of you. So be aware of these things. Make sure your friends know about people you're talking to. Don't engage people that you don't know on your social media platforms. You can block them if they say inappropriate things, ask inappropriate things. Just block them. You can also report them. At the end of this presentation, I will give you the cyber tip line to report people who are asking or doing inappropriate things online. The last thing I want to mention is something that sadly many of you are familiar with. The term has become known as cyberbullying. Bullying has been around for a long time, and now with the invention of the internet and with social media platforms, it is now done in these social media spaces where people talk about others, they put them down, they spread gossip and slander others, and perhaps you've been the recipient of this. And there's that old saying that sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, or names will never hurt me. And you know as well as I know that's not true, that what people say does hurt us. And so when you're using these various platforms, know first of all that what you say does affect other people. It does cause them to respond to that, and sometimes it's in a very destructive manner. And so you could decide with your words, you can either be a hero and use words to build up, or you can be part of that destruction to tear down. I also want to talk about when you see these things going on online and people are talking about somebody else, if you like that post or you give it a thumbs up or you approve of it, you're just like the bully. You're joining in it. And if that person was to do something destructive, you participated in that. So I would encourage you, be a hero, stand up for somebody, tell people that's not okay to be speaking of people like they're speaking, to instead encourage them, build them up. If you come across some information online where you realize that you're the target of the cyberbullying, know that you have some options to take. Don't get involved, first of all. Don't respond. Don't try to defend yourself. You will escalate the situation, and some of you know that from experience. But the first thing is just to block that person, the person that's instigating all this. Obviously, if it gets so bad that you need to set up a new account, I would encourage you to do that. But also make a report. You know, people talk about snitches and everything else, but understand if these people are picking on you, they're probably picking on other people too. And though you might handle it well, somebody else might not handle it as well. So by you reporting them, you could actually be a hero and you could save a life by doing so. So get an adult, somebody that you trust, get them involved, let them know what's going on. You know, we could all really put an end to the whole idea of cyberbullying if we just took up the golden rule and we treated others the way that we want to be treated. You know, I don't want people talking about me or gossiping about me or slandering me online. So neither should I do that online either. I don't want people being critical of me and making fun of me, and neither should I do that to others online. So let's follow the golden rule. Let's treat others the way that we want to be treated, and we'll avoid all this altogether. All right, that brings us to the close of today's presentation. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope that you found some of this information important, information you can put into practice immediately. If you have anybody online that you see that is bullying others or is asking for inappropriate content, this is an anonymous hotline, is the cyber tip hotline. It's at cybertipline.org. There's also a phone number. Again, it's completely anonymous, but again, we have to get into our mind away from this idea of it's being a snitch to it's actually being a hero. That though this person might not have been able to take advantage of you, there might be somebody else that was more vulnerable that they are going to take advantage of. So be sure to report any of this inappropriate activity. Have a great day. Bye-bye.